Hello again everyone, it's me, MadameMacabre, and welcome to another video. For today's video, we're actually going to be trying out something a little bit new, and if you guys like this, maybe it's a new format we can incorporate. I actually have a user submission today with someone who is writing to me to tell me about something they're experiencing and sort of asking my opinion and for my help on the matter. So that's what I'm going to do. I will go ahead and read through their entire email. I'm going to try not to stop and do my thoughts mid-story. I'm just going to get through the whole thing, and then I will give all my thoughts and my advice and things like that afterward. Alright, without further ado, this was a submission from, they're calling themselves Hayhay the TrashCan. Alright? Alright, Hayhay. Hi, madam. I've been watching your videos since about 2016 or so, and I thought that it might be time to share my own spooky experiences. I have a lot since my family has a lot of experience with hauntings, but this is something that happened kind of recently. I'm not sure if it was an actual ghost or demon or whatever, or if it's just my brain trying to scare me. Whatever it is pretty spooky. I'll try to remember everything, but anyways, here it is. So, it all started with a dream I had. Probably last month. In that dream, I remember being stalked by someone. And I remember telling a friend in my dream something like, "Hey, someone has been following me for a while, and I just wanted to let you know." But in my dream, I just knew that this dude who had been stalking me had been doing it since I was really little. And this probably stemmed from the fact that for as long as I can remember, I felt like someone was watching me. But I know it's not an actual person, or at least a living person. But anyway, the dude followed us and we found ourselves in a really sketchy area with dark alleyways and really sketchy looking people. I can't remember much from the dream, but that's what really stuck in my mind. Anyway, after the dream, I woke up, and it did spook me a bit, but this happens often, so I didn't think much of it. And that day went okay, like normal. I told my mom and some friends about the dream, and that was that. Until that night. I was sitting in bed texting one of my friends, and I started to get really scared of that dream, because like I said earlier, I felt like someone was watching me since I was really little. Honestly, I can't remember a time when I haven't had that feeling. Well, I was freaking out to my friend because I was thinking that it could have been an actual person this entire time, and that feeling became so normal to me that I never really thought it was anything bad. And I started to panic. I was hyperventilating because I was so scared, not just like oh, this is kinda creepy scared. I mean, I'm going to die, full-on terrified kind of scared. I told my friend that I felt so vulnerable because that feeling of being watched was being multiplied for some reason. What I mean is, that feeling was getting more and more apparent. My friend was trying to calm me down, telling me it was going to be okay. And it was working. Until I got this feeling that I've grown so familiar with. Not only was I being watched, I felt that knot in my stomach that I get when something bad is in the room. And it was a very heavy feeling. And as soon as that feeling came, my light began to flicker violently. And it flickers occasionally, but it's always small flickers, like one or two, and then it goes back to normal just fine. This was very violent flickering, and it went on for a while. Not only that, but the only light bulb that was flickering was the light bulb that pointed towards a corner in my closet. And my instincts had been telling me that's where the thing was watching me from. And I quickly told my friend that I was feeling better and that I needed to sleep. And as soon as I sent the message, I grabbed my glasses, turned on the flashlight on my phone, and bolted out of my room into my parents' room. I slept there that night, but that's not where it stopped. When I ran down the hallway towards my parents' room, I felt that heavy feeling following me. It felt like it was watching me. And when I was in bed with my parents, I still felt it watching me. I felt it in the room, and for hours I couldn't sleep because my mind kept showing me horrible things that had happened in the area I live in. And it wasn't just like my mind making things up. I saw it. I heard people talking to me. It was like I was actually in that situation, and that is not normal for me. And it wasn't like my brain showing me. It was almost like watching a movie. And I kept tossing and turning, trying to get it stopped because I was so exhausted. But whenever I closed my eyes, it would get worse. And after hours of this going on, I finally somehow got it to stop and was able to fall asleep. I can't remember how I did it, but it hasn't happened since then, thankfully. The next day was completely normal. I told my mom about it, and she asked me if I'd been watching any scary videos that night. She's usually talking about your videos. Oh, hey! They're amazing, but they scare the living bejesus out of me. But I hadn't watched them in a while. I was actually taking a break from all the scary stuff. I don't know what it was. It could have been nothing, but it was scary nonetheless. I wanted to know what you thought about it. But that's all. Thanks for reading through this long thing. I don't know. Okay, so that's it for the submission. Now we transition to the part where I give my thoughts. So first and foremost, some of the things that stuck out to me that I am curious about because there's not enough information to really delve further in this story, but all the phenomenon you're experiencing, it seems from what we know in this story to be happening primarily in your house, in your family home. That is the epicenter of where it's happening. And the reason this is important to be able to identify is because it can really sort of help us to narrow down whether we are dealing with something that is just a negative spirit or a demonic entity. Generally, negative spirits can mostly be attached to places. They don't generally leave their haunting epicenter to follow people. There can be exceptions here and there, but as a general rule, spirits tend to hang around in their haunting grounds, where it's demons that have no problem following you from kingdom come, okay? Also, if your family home is a place where you have lived for a very long time, I'd be interested in knowing the history of the place. How old is it? Do you know much about the land that it's on? These are all clues and factors that can sort of help us narrow down what this could be, if it is something. You also mentioned flickering lights and the flickering light by the closet. Now, this is gonna seem like the most basic, stupid question, but I gotta raise the question just because, the normal skeptic part of my brain goes, have you checked the light bulb? Do you know how old the light bulb is? Could it just be sort of starting to flicker because it's getting old and about ready to be replaced? And if that's already dealt with, then at least we can check that off our list. Also, it's interesting that you said you often get some sort of light fluctuations. It makes me wonder if the weird, even the minor ones, could be related to some paranormal activity, or if you're just in possibly a really old house and that's just kind of how the wiring do. And if you are indeed in an older house, one thing that is a possibility for all of this stuff, some older homes in their walls and different places, usually in basements and stuff, but it can be in walls all over the place, really old electronic devices and wiring can sometimes give off unnaturally high levels of EMF or electromagnetic fields. The science can be kind of wishy-washy on this stuff because some people want to claim even Wi-Fi can do it. But generally you find the really unnaturally high EMF ratings in old homes with old wiring and old appliances. High amounts of EMF can cause us to be paranoid, thinking we're hearing things. It can give us headaches. It can have really crazy effects on the human body. So if you're in an old home, there could be a possibility that in your room, there may be, in the walls wiring, there may be old electronic devices giving off high EMF, and it could be having an effect on you. Alright, now that is the more logical, skeptical side of my brain. First, making sure we check down those concerns before we move on to treating this as if it truly is paranormal activity. Okay, now, hey, assuming that you've gone down your list and none of those things seem to be the culprit, they all check out, that's not the case, it's a newer house, or it's, got new wiring that was just redone, there's no EMF or whatever. The light bulb's fine. Okay, now we can look at this in the aspect of it being potentially paranormal. Now, the thing with negative entities, both demonic in nature and just evil spirits, they can attach themselves to locations. Usually it's places that have in the past or even just recently experienced great amounts of grief, trauma, or over time a huge buildup of energy. Now, these entities can also attach themselves to people, this more so speaking towards demonic entities, and the people that they attach themselves to generally are people who are at their most vulnerable. This is people who are at the lowest of the low. They feel absolutely weak. Oftentimes it's people who are addicts and have a lot of other issues going on in their life, but generally when you see people getting attached to, they're not doing so hot. Now, just given only the information you have shared with us in your letter, just based on that information, to me, it seems like you may have a negative spirit attached to the home. Since the home is the epicenter, that's where you're experiencing it, and it's all self-contained there. Now, you said your family has experience with hauntings, so that's also interesting, but we don't have enough info on that. If your whole family's experiencing weird things, then it's definitely not, just targeting it on you. However, if you're the only one getting this intense of things, you might just be more of a sensitive. There are people out there, like myself and some of my friends included, we're very sensitive to this stuff. We're almost beacons that attract it. So certain people are going to pick up on this stuff way more, and then the spirits, lucky you, you're going to be their first target because they can get a better reaction out of you. But fear not, there's lots of things we can do to protect ourselves, even if we are the most paranormal sensitives out there. Okay, so as far as advice and help I can give you right now, if you are indeed dealing with a negative entity, there are 2 steps you can take to sort of safeguard yourself. Step 1 is just alter any possibly risky behaviors you're currently participating in. Now, this piece of advice I'm about to give is not necessarily just, specific to you, Hayhay, because I imagine since you don't like creepy, it creeps you out, you probably don't do this, but this is just good general advice for everyone. If you think there is something negative, do not ever try to interact with it. Never. Don't do seances, don't use spirit boards, no Ouija, nothing like that. Do not interact. Demons don't interact with this post. Just thought we should get that out of the way first. Now, the second piece of advice is more specific to your case. You mentioned that you love horror, but it really gets to you. It freaks you out. Well, I'm not saying you should have to stop watching horror, because we shouldn't have to give up the things that we love just because there's negative stuff out there that wants to use it against us. But what you can do is alter the behavior in which you consume this media that gives you issues. If it scares you a lot, my advice would be stop watching it alone, if that's what you've been doing. I'd say make a playlist of favorites, save, bookmark all the cool-looking scary videos you would love to watch, make a playlist, save them, until you have a day where you have a friend who's willing to watch them with you to come over so you're not alone. And also be sure, watch them during the daytime. Watching stuff at night, creepy stuff, even the most hardened people can get a little bit like, what did I see in my peripheral vision? When it's late at night and you've been watching too much spooks, okay? Also, after you're done consuming your horror media, watch something lighthearted, cute, funny, comedy. That's a good palate cleanser, and it sort of gets you back into a positive mind space. By doing these things, you are not going to make yourself unnecessarily vulnerable to any nasties out there, because the key to keeping yourself safe is not being vulnerable, staying strong against it. Now, the second step that you can take is cleansing. Now, my personal favorite and go-to is the good old indigenous American white sage. Smudging is a tried and true cleansing method that generally has pretty good results. Now, my personal go-to is California white sage. Not only does it smell divine, but it has great cleansing properties, and generally it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's also not going to break your entire bank. That being said, however, you mentioned you still live with your parents, and for whatever reason, some parents are just really, really weird about sage and smudging. Some of them, they're like, I won't have that stuff in my home. You do realize sage, just across the board in various cultures, is seen as a positive, uplifting, purifying thing. It's not like, evil hexes and like cursing people. It's a purifying thing across the board in many different cultures. But whatever, some parents are weird. An option you could use to get around this, while not as great as being able to use just straight up pure sage itself, but you can make do, is incense. Now, this one also helps if you're trying not to break the bank, because at just about any grocery store in the United States, at least, you can get this Ganesh Sticks brand stuff. It's like $2. So you can get sage incense, and you should still be able to perform the smudging. Now, the super quick breakdown of smudging, you're going to want to hit every entranceway and every corner in your home, and a lot of people also suggest you keep a window cracked or open. That way the evil spirits have a place to escape from, so they're not just like swirling around getting mad. Another thing you can do once you've completed your smudging is anointing all the entranceways to your home or your room. And I know it sounds like something big and ceremonial and expensive. This is really just as simple as you can get some olive oil from the kitchen, dip your fingers in it, and go to all the doors, the vent, like airways, and windowsills, and with the little bit of oil on your finger, draw a protective symbol on all those things. And this can be any protective symbol that has significance to you. Many people do like a cross, but if there's something that has more power to you or from your own faith, feel free to do that. And my last little suggestion is there's also a lot of people who believe that certain natural stones and materials have just natural Mother Earth properties against nasties. And people believe that these can be used to also dispel yucky things. Now, as a person who just in general enjoys hoarding shiny rocks because they are pretty, I got a mountain of them of all shapes and sizes for purposes. So it's great. It serves two purposes, because then also, demons F off, right? This is another practice that can also be tied to indigenous American traditions, which can also be seen as like crystal gridding, which you can grid by burying the crystals around your property, or you can put them in your windowsills, different places around the house to add additional protection, or you can fashion them into quite lovely and luxurious jewelry. First, we have agate, or specifically tawny agate. This one is just seen by a lot of people as just an all-around good stone for negative stuff. It can supposedly dispel spirits, but people will also use it for like negating like psychic assaults or stuff, because like demons can sometimes go for like your mind. Next we have jasper. There's lots of different kinds of jasper. Just jasper in general is really good for negative spirits, but specifically shadow figures, interestingly enough. So I don't know if you necessarily need this for your case because you didn't mention shadow figures, but if y'all out there have an issue with shadow people, jasper is they don't like it. They don't care for it. I don't see why, it's lovely. Then just another all-around good stone, jet, is just really good for dispelling nasty yuckies. And finally, we have onyx, which this could potentially be helpful because onyx is good for attached spirits and entities. So if you have something that's attached itself to yourself or your home, this is supposed to help dispel them. Oh, and I nearly forgot. Another all-around champ, my personal all-time favorite stone, malachite. I'm just going to show my lovely little egg off here real quick. As part of a stalactite. Beautiful stone, beautiful jewelry, also really good to have. I mean, not even just for the demons, just because I want to hoard it like a dragon. Anyway, that's about all the basic advice I can give you off the top of my head, since I really don't have enough details to truly in-depth help you. You know the details, so at this point, use what I have as a base. You can Google if you want a very specific type of smudging or cleansing. There's lots of different ways, more than just smudging. Like, if you want to look into it and you really feel like it's necessary, you can find stuff on Google. Please be safe and be healthy and be happy. I just want everybody to be okay? Okay? So again, I can't emphasize enough. Please don't try and communicate with it. Just don't. Okay? Anyway, I hope this was somewhat helpful for you, Hayhay, and I hope everyone else watching enjoyed this. If you'd like to see me help more people with their issues, sort of read through it, try and diagnose it or whatever, feel free to let me know in the comments below. Or if I have missed something, or if you hear from this letter that I read, if something like strikes a note and you're like, I know exactly what that is, please, by all means, feel free to share in the comments below, because the whole goal of this video is someone's spooked, let's help them out. Let's make them feel safe in their own home again. Alright guys, I will catch you all next time with another video, and until then, remember, as always, stay creepy.